God tests Abraham in today's reading of the Torah and asks him to sacrifice his son on Mount Moriah. And Abraham raises his knife to kill his son Isaac, the one he waited for 100 years. He's 100 years old. And he's able to raise a knife. That's an accomplishment to its own. But he had a child. That's even a bigger miracle. He looks up and he sees a ram caught in a thicket. Not an LA Ram football player, but a real lamb with 4 legs and horns on its head. His faith in God is proven. He was willing to sacrifice his only son. I was first married in 1965. I'm still waiting for a son. I'm not complaining. I have a handful of daughters, one for every finger of my hand. Nina, Mila, Daniela, Chelsana, Tess. And what a beautiful and precious hand this is. I wondered for years what my father would say, my sainted father, Rabbi Abraham Isaac Cutler, who was a fervent disciple of God. I wondered what he would say if he was asked the same question. I once asked him, Pop, if God were to approach you before and ask you to sacrifice one of your sons, what would you do? Without hesitation, he looked up at me and said, I'd ask God which one. He had a great sense of humor, my dad. I, for one, am still grappling on the story. My question is, what kind of God would ask a devoted disciple to sacrifice the son that he loved, the son that he waited for 100 years? What about Isaac? He's not an infant. He's a growing, strapling young man who carries a pile of wood to the top of Mount Moriah. He's strong, a bit naive, as he accepts his father's binding him on the altar without a word, without an animal in sight for the offering. I said he was strong. Obviously, he was a bit dense. Why do we read this story on the first day of the holiest day of the year? Well, because it's the story of Isaac is a foreshadow of things that can happen. And sadly, they are happening. Look what's happening throughout the world, my friends. The past 2 years have been a constant nightmare of Mother Nature's shocking attack on unsuspecting men, women, and children. The millions who lay helpless in hospitals throughout the world, unable to breathe. COVID has touched many of those watching today, and our hearts and prayers go out to you. The epidemic has affected all of us, especially the most vulnerable, the medically compromised, the poor, the ignorant. And what about the proliferation of guns? How many gun attacks do we have? How many people have lost their lives due to someone walking around with a gun in his pocket, illegally probably, and taking out and shooting someone in a store, get the cash register? the ongoing epidemic which we as Jews feel every day, the epidemic of hate, bigotry, anti-Semitism. The Chinese, God bless them, old men, old women being attacked from behind. The spreading of destructive fires. The politicians who have split a country for their own personal gain. And right now, Afghanistan, and Afghanistan, how horrible, how terrible. We see it every day on television. The murder in front of our eyes of innocent men, women, and children, Afghanistan. And nothing is being done. Years ago, I lived in Newburgh, New York. Newburgh is a lovely city on the Hudson River. Not on the Hudson River, right on the banks of the Hudson River. My father enrolled me in a secular school. He had no choice. There were no Hebrew schools around, and he was a rabbi of a synagogue. The school was South Junior High School. I was there just a couple of days. That's all, a couple of days, when a big guy, he towered over me. He was huge. He came over to me. He was a senior. I'd just gotten to school. He asked, and I'll never forget it, he asked, "Hey, is Cutler a Jewish name?" This was in a very rough voice that he had. I answered, "No." "No?" "No," he replied. I said, "Listen, Ginsburg is a Jewish name. Goldberg, Rosenberg, Jewish name. Eisenberg is a Jewish name. Cutler, I guess, can go either way." He walked closer to me, extended his hand, and said, "Welcome, Landsman." He too was a Jew. I've dreamed Jewish dreams. We all have dreamed Jewish dreams and hopes, and Jewish hopes. Every year we gather in temple for the high holidays, except for the last 2 years. However, there is still an air of celebration as we begin the new year together. Even if we are not physically close this year, there is still an air of celebration within our home, which in essence is our temple. Those of you tonight in the comfort of your respective homes who are still searching for the faith lost in this embattlement of and vicious world, we ask ourselves, what is the rest of the Jewish populace feeling that I don't feel? Those of you who do ask that are still in the dark. When our forefather Abraham was asked to stand up when God was counting the Jews before they left to cross the Red Sea and leave Egypt, he was asked to stand up and be counted. And Abraham answers, when God is saying, "Abraham, Abraham," he answers, "Hineni, I am here." It incidentally is on my father's gravesite on the tombstone. Abraham, where art thou? And my father answers, Hineni, I am here. Abraham went on to found a nation based on principled self-determination, a nation of those who truly have believed for thousands of years that the statement, I am Jewish, could shape the world, repair it, sanctify it. We are the inheritors of these principled, self-determined people. O Lord, create together with us and instill within us the divine qualities of tzedakah and chesed, righteousness, abundant love. May we use those divine qualities to turn outward so that we may then be compassionate towards others and the world around us. May this enable us to seek forgiveness from others, to grant forgiveness to those who seek it. May we renew this blessing each moment of every day of our lives. This is our prayer. For the grace of God. We are Jewish. We are Jewish. And so very proud of being Jewish. God bless us all, young and old, man and woman, boy, girl, even our dogs and pets we have around the house. Bless us all this coming year, for this is the year of strength, of good health, and long life. Take care, everyone, and a wonderful Rosh Hashanah, happy year for each and every one of you. Amen.